Hey, thank you for coming back. And today, I'd like to talk to you about a NOAA emergency radio. I kind of forgot what NOAA stands for. I think it's National Ocean and that Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association or something like that. But this is it. Nice bright orange. And basically, yes, I did get this off TEMU. It was like 25, 26 bucks on TEMU. And I think it's a really good thing to have, especially in some of those areas where you're prone to tornadoes, hurricanes, and things of that nature. So I really think it's a great idea to have something, either this one in particular, or there's a bunch of other models out there. Of course, there'll be a lot more money. This one is budget friendly, so that's why I got this one. In the box, it's a simple box, pretty generic. Tells you a little bit about stuff, a little bit about what's included, and pretty much that's it. As you can tell, it's, like I said, it's a generic product. Inside the box, you do get a nice little information pamphlet and a nice little charging cable, USB-A on one end and micro USB on the other. Yes, it's micro USB. Stop your complaining. I know it's 2023, but maybe it was just to keep the cost down instead of using USB-C. So let's take a walk around the radio here. As you can tell, this is the dial right here with different types of radio bands. You have the AM, FM, and the WB, which is the weather band. And this is the knob right here to dial in your radio station. This is a volume knob, and as you see, these lights here means it's charging, and that's because the solar panel right here up on top is sensitive. If I put my hand up on top, you'll notice the lights go off. If I remove my hand, they start charging right away. Of course, you get a nice little speaker here. It's like a 2-inch speaker, which is a 5-watt speaker. You do get a flashlight. On the back, you got a couple different ports. You get a USB port, micro SD slot, for micro SD cards. Here's the charging port, and believe it or not, you get a 3.5mm earphone jack. And here's a nice little selector switch, which I'll get into in a little bit. On this side, you got your AM, FM, and WB band selector switch, plus, yes, it is a Bluetooth speaker. You do get an antenna for the radio. It's a pretty good long length. I'd say anywhere from 12 inches to 16 inches in length. I could be wrong. You get a nice little, even though it's a silicone rubber wristband, you get one on there. On the top is your on and off button. And right here is this power switch for the flashlight. If you notice, there's this little notch right by the solar panel, because if you lift it up, you get what they call a reading lantern, and there's 10 LEDs inside there. And right here is the on and off button for that. Now on the bottom, you do get some rubber feet or rubber pads. It does have this protective film on it, so you peel it off and it'll stay in place. Now be careful with these rubber pads, because there's a little bit of adhesive on the backing, but one of them tended to fall out. So when you first get it, make sure you press kind of hard a little bit on it to make sure that these are seated properly. Or if you want, if it does fall off, put a little glue on it, some kind of rubber cement or something, put it in there so they can stay in place. Now this is a handle to charge it in case there's no power. More on that in just a moment. Okay, we went over the radio, so let's go over some of the specs. Like I said, it is a NOAA emergency radio. The model number is the J905, which is weird because if you look here on the booklet, it says FYR905. So, like I said, it's just a generic radio made for whoever that wants to put their branding right up there. There's 3 ways to charge this. Obviously through the dynamo, and if you're trying to pick it up from here, sometimes it's a little hard to pick it up from down here. So you see this little ridge? I found if you pull it up from there, it makes it a lot easier. So this is one way to charge it. Obviously, if it goes dead, you just, and it'll start charging the internal battery. You got a solar panel, which will charge the internal battery. And of course, yes, you can charge it through the micro USB port. Now the Bluetooth is Bluetooth 5.0, which is a nice touch for this little cheap radio. I already told you it has a 5-watt speaker. Now this flashlight is a 1-watt flashlight, and they use the 3030 LED. The color temperature on that is 6500K, which means it's a really bright white. The 10 LEDs in here, as you can kind of see right there, these are the 2835 LEDs. And the color temperature for this is only 6000 Kelvin, or 6000K. And once again, it's a very bright white light. The internal battery is a built-in 18650 battery and rated at 3600 milliamps. Now, I'm not sure if they glued this or sonically welded together, and I know you're not going to see it, but I did put a flashlight in here, and you see that little black dot in these holes? You got a couple of them around here. Looks like a Phillips head screwdriver. I don't have anything that small and long to fit way down in there, so I didn't take this apart to see if you can replace the 18650 battery or not. So as it stands, no, you cannot replace the 18650 battery. Now with the micro SD card, you can put a whole bunch of music on it, from MP3s up to a 32 gigabyte card. That's what this will support, and that's a lot of music on a 32 gigabyte card. And you put it in there and you can play MP3s through this. Regular charging will take anywhere from 4 to, I'm going to say 7 hours actually, because when I first got it and plugged it in, it took around 7, maybe 7.5 hours to get this thing fully charged. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's this little dot right there. There's a little light in it. It will go off when it's fully charged. Like I said, first time charging it, it's going to take quite a long time to charge it up. It did mine, like I said, about, let's just say 7.5 hours to fully charge it when I first got this in. Now, of course, how long is it going to take to charge the battery using the built-in dynamo? Well, that depends upon how fast you can crank this thing. If I'm sitting here just like this, casually doing it, it's going to take longer. Faster you go, the more power it's going to generate, okay? And the solar panel, according to the directions, first of all, it does depend upon how bright the sun is and how much sun is actually hitting the solar panel, if it's directly or indirectly. Because like right now, even though it says it's charging, technically it's indirect light, because I don't have it directly aimed at like one of the lights to fully charge it. So they say up to 60 hours just for the solar panel to charge the internal battery. I mean, that makes sense, because I mean, this thing is so small, it's probably only charging at 0.2 or 3 amps anyway, so it's going to be a trickle charge more or less. So anytime it's not in use, I mean, if you do use it, anytime you shut it off, stick it somewhere where there's a light, just so this can help keep it topped off, if you will. Now, let me actually do this. Now, I'm in a place where there's a lot of LED lights, so there's going to be a lot of interference, but at home there wasn't that much interference, and I got a lot of good radio stations. Let's start with the FM band.
Can you tell us just something you've learned through this report?
Text and data.
Hey.
Now that the product things.
The more things change.
Take his shirt off.
Okay, let's go through the AM band.
Everything I know.
China, so it is clearly a
Believe in.
The first North American native.
Okay, now let's go through the weather band. Oops. And
Now looking to the Upper Peninsula.
And as you
The
see,
temperatures
this
were
dial
63 degrees.
glows like an orange.
At Marquette, fog was reported. At Sault Ste. Marie, it was sunny. A few out-of-state locations. At Cleveland, it was mostly sunny, with a temperature of 71. At Chicago, it was partly sunny, with a temperature
And
of
that's the
71.
weather band.
Once
Let me
again,
turn the volume down. Now watch the dial as I turn it to Bluetooth. That's to signify that it turned to the Bluetooth. Okay. Now, let me just close all that up. Let me shut it off for now. Of course, you're not going to get the best, fantastic audio out of this little speaker, but it's an emergency speaker. Okay, or an emergency radio. That's what it's designed for. But it does perform very well. Now, one thing is this little selector switch. If you look at it, it says SOS, has a thing that looks like a radio, and then something that looks like a little red lightning bolt or something right there, right? Right now it's on the radio. That's so you can hear this and listen to Bluetooth. Now, if I turn it to the SOS, well, okay, that's annoying. Of course, it's not that loud, but it's not supposed to be like where you can hear it from a couple blocks away or anything like that. It's if you know that somebody is close by and you turn it on, and that's what it does. Of course, you already know what the radio function does. And the last one is for this right here. Now, you could technically use this to power up a phone or a tablet or something of that nature. It's 5 volts and pretty much 1 amp, maybe a little bit lower than that, depending upon how charged up the battery is, probably, and how good the quality battery is. No, I didn't test it either. But I do like the fact that it has an on and off switch, so power isn't always going to this port, which may mean a little bit of wasted power going that way. So that's pretty much it about all of the specs on this little thing. I'm going to do a quick test to show you the flashlight and the reading lamp. And I'll be right back to give you my final thoughts. here's the Bluetooth speaker in action right up there. I'm probably about a good 30 feet away from it. My phone is turned up all the way, and so is the volume on the speaker. And this is what it sounds like from about 30 feet away. Let me move a little closer. Yes, I'm filming this on my iPad, so sorry for any shakiness. Let me turn this down. Now, all the music that you're hearing is from the YouTube library. And this one's called Black Mercury. Now, right here on the bottom, you got control buttons. So if I wanted to skip the song to the next one, go again. Now if I wanted to pause it, you would hit this button right here. And then press play again. And you do have independent volume controls. So you could turn the volume up all the way on here, and on your device you can use this to control how loud or quiet the music is on your device. Now if you wanted to play MP3s from the SD card, you would have it set up, you would at first, the first thing you got to do is put your card in here with the MP3s. Turn your radio on, make sure it's on Bluetooth mode, because this light will be blue, that means it's Bluetooth. And you press and hold the play pause button, and pretty much that's how you activate the MP3 function of the radio. So, I hope this was a good little test demo of the radio. It has really good bass response to it. It has really good bass to it. It's a very warm sounding speaker. It's not like really high or tinny or anything like that. It's very well rounded. Okay, so what do I think of this little generic, no-branded NOAA emergency radio? Well, I have to admit, I actually enjoyed this thing. One thing I forgot to show you in the first half of the video is here's an LED light, USB. LED light, you know, I kind of reviewed these a while ago. And as you see, it's not turned on yet until I flip this switch. So I do like that little function that you could shut the power off. Now, there is a few little things about this. Number one, when I tested this light, the reading light, I let it run for 15 hours and the light was still going strong. Now, it did kind of dim slightly a little bit, but the light was still on, and in case of an emergency, any light is good light. So after 15 hours, I was like, okay, that's good enough. 15 hours because, you know, most chances are you're going to fall asleep before that 15 hours is up. And if you put it somewhere where light can hit it, it'll start topping off the battery. Plus you got the dynamo here that you can use to help juice up the battery even more before you need this light again. A little quirk though about the flashlight here. When I was testing it to see how long it'll last, after about an hour, hour and a half, it just shut off. Then I would turn it back on immediately. It would run for about another hour, hour and a half, and then shut off. I think they have that like that to protect, you know, as an energy saving thing. So you're not continuously using that one, because this one's going to use more juice than the reading light. So I think that's what this is for. Why it shuts off after a certain amount of time is because they don't, you know, whoever made this, you know, it's an emergency thing. For emergency situation, you want to try to conserve as much juice as possible in the battery, that is. The other thing I want to mention is the dial here for the tuner of the radio. It is very, very sensitive. What do I mean by that? Well, when you're searching the stations, you can barely move this thing like 1/8 of an inch. And that little tiny little bit will determine whether that radio station is in tune or not. So it is a bit sensitive. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but you will get used to it. The last thing, well, I did mention about the feet pad, is that these buttons are really sensitive. When you, especially this one here, this flashlight one, it's really sensitive to press it. You can barely brush against it and it'll turn the thing on. And that's probably the other reason why they have like a timer, if you will, on the flashlight in case you accidentally hit it. It's not on draining your battery. It'll shut off after a certain amount of time. But I do really like this little radio. I think it's definitely worth the money, especially, like I said, for those who live where you're more prone to tornadoes and hurricanes and power outages, and you want to stay up with at least the weather or whatever comes on the radio. You got something for that. Plus, yes, it does act as a power bank. It may not, with some of these more modern phones, it needs a little bit more amperage than what this will put out, but it may help prolong your phone a little bit more. But regardless, it's not a bad little thing to have, and I highly recommend it. And yes, once again, it is on TEMU. And if I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can get it from. So yeah, if you don't get this one, at least start looking into other NOAA type radios, where in case you do need something like this in an emergency, maybe you can get one that'll last longer, that's bigger and better. But I like this nice small one because if in an emergency, if you have to move around, smaller is better, not some big, huge, humongo radio type thing. So, there you go. So yeah, get this from TEMU. I highly recommend it. And if you happen to like this video, please give it that thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget about that notification bell. It would really help me out a lot if you were to share this video and maybe some more of my others on all of your social media. And until the next video, you, your friends, your family, and yes, even all of your pets, you all have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.